Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Anna Kaylin and I'm so glad that you are here. Today I am talking about picking one word for the year. So this was something that I think I was in like 8th grade, I think, when it was something my youth pastor kind of started in me, I guess. He would do it for like the whole youth ministry. He'd pick a word for the year. So I just wanted to talk about what my word for 2021 is and kind of the story behind it. And my brother's outside. I'm just waiting for him to turn around and look at me like, what are you doing? Wow, he's not even gonna notice. Okay, so my word for 2021 is bold. And it was literally, I started praying about it like beginning of December, like what word do you want me to have for the year? And honestly, I didn't really have a word at the beginning of 2020. I was just kind of like, I don't know. But grace came up pretty quick, so I definitely say that was kind of my word for 2020. But yeah, so for 2021, the first word that came to me, and I really started praying over is this the word, was bold. And there are really 3 areas that I want to be bold in, and that's bold in faith, prayer, and with people. So the first one being bold in faith, for me this year, I think I really learned be bold in believing that God can do something in whatever the situation is. And 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." And I love this verse. And that's really what being bold in faith to me means, is instead of succumbing to the fear, the natural fear that we can feel and have in a situation, we instead have the power, we have a spirit of power and love and sound mind, or this one says self-control. So being bold in faith, being bold in what I'm reading in the Word and what I'm believing that God can do through a circumstance, whether that be in my worship, the way that I worship Him, being bold in believing those things about who He is, His character, His plan, all of that sort of stuff. And then the second thing being bold in prayer. So just being really bold in my prayers, and I think that's if anything, that's the big thing that I really want to do in 2021 is be bold in prayer. I think I learned the power of prayer this year, and so I really just want to just be bold in what I'm praying, even if it seems crazy and impossible, but being bold in not only praying it, but also believing that it can come. So Matthew 7:7, I loved the first few verses of this passage, but I hadn't really finished out, I guess, reading the whole passage. So the whole thing is, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you'll find, knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. Or which one of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, he will give him a serpent. If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who's in heaven give good things to those who ask Him? So that's saying, if we asked God for bread, He'd give us a stone. That's kind of what it's talking about. So if somebody asked you for bread, why would you give them a stone instead? You would give them the bread that they asked for. And so it's talking about the same thing. If we ask to God, He will be faithful to answer that prayer. And it may or may not be in the way that we think or recognize. But He will still answer it. And then the other verse is John 16:12. 23. In that day you will ask nothing of me. Truly, truly, I say to you, whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Until now, you've asked nothing in my name. Ask and you'll receive, that your joy may be full. So just being bold in praying and being bold in asking and just bold in believing that God will answer those prayers. And then the last thing is bold with people. I think this for me surrounds a lot around the Great Commission in Matthew 28, which I'd heard so many times, a lot in youth group whenever we were doing any sort of service thing. We would always talk about the Great Commission, how God and Jesus called the disciples to go and make disciples, and heard it so much. And this year, specifically the end of this year, like the last 3 or 4 months, that like the Great Commission passage just means so much more to me. I'm not even sure exactly why. I lead middle school girls small group, and I was talking to them about it one day, and most of them, I think all of them, had never heard it before. And yeah, like it just became so much more powerful to me, and I'm going to read it. It's Matthew 28 verses 16 through 20. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee and to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them, and when they saw him they worshipped him, but some doubted, which that's like a huge thing to me. Like they still doubted him even though he was standing right in front of them, which I could make an entire video on that. And Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you. And behold, I'm with you always, to the end of the age. So just talking about the Great Commission, God calls us to go out and make disciples, and until the end of this year, I've been very shy, I think, in my faith. I know. I've never been one to share it with people, which is crazy because I volunteered in church all the time from the time I was like 11. But outside of the church walls, I never shared my faith. And this year, just different situations I've been placed in, I've gotten to be challenged to share my faith with other people, and the reward has been so cool. Like, not reward in that like somebody came to Christ or something, just like it makes me feel filled up, and not like that I have a purpose, because I have a purpose outside of just that, but that's part of my purpose and part of what I'm called to as God's child, and I've just felt the fullness of that. And so I just really this year also, my brother's gonna look in 3, 2, yep. And so I just really want to be really bold in sharing my faith with people, and just with people in general, like talking to them, and not necessarily like walking up to them and being like, hey, you know, like that's a little, I'm not gonna do that. But just being compassionate towards people and living out my faith around people, I think that's like the biggest thing you can do when it comes to boldness. So in the book Radical by David Platt, which I think this is the second time I've mentioned this book, so it says, they claim Christ is necessary for salvation, yet they live their Christianity in silence, as if people around them in the world will indeed be okay without Christ. Like, that blew my mind, because it's so true, and I've been living in that. Like, we claim Christ is necessary for salvation, like Christ is the only way to get to heaven, the only way to God. We claim that in the church and in our own faith. Like, I 100% claim and believe that, but yet we live our Christianity in silence, as if the rest of the world is okay without it. And so that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, standing on rooftops, like yelling the gospel, but it does mean that we're intentionally living out our faith in a way that others will see, because others need to see and hear it. So that is my word for 2021, bold. I would love to hear what y'all's words are or resolutions or whatever, so definitely drop those in the comments below. Give this video a like, and please subscribe to join my crazy little journey called life. Also follow me on Instagram, and it's right here. And don't forget to live in grace and love with grace, and I'll see you in the next one.